Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dev Marketer channel. Today we're going to focus on part 25 of our Advanced Blog and CMS series. Now the goal of today's video is to set up our LaraFlash notifications, our Flash notifications for Laravel. We're going to set those up so we basically never have to worry about it again. We can blaze forward with our application using Flash notifications and knowing that they're going to display to the user as we intend them to. So that's kind of the goal of today's video, is just to set it up so we don't have to worry about it again. Now to do this, we're going to be using a plugin called LaraFlash. This is a package that I've created. You guys can find this at devmarketer/LaraFlash. I believe if you just Google it, it'll pop up to LaraFlash. Should pop up devmarketer/LaraFlash. So what we want to do here is we want to install this package. Now what this package does is this improves significantly on the default Flash notifications that come in Laravel. So by default, Laravel doesn't actually have very good support for Flash messages. You can set messages or Flash messages to to the request, but you really can't, they're not really designed in the way that we actually use notifications. There aren't really any properties you can set for it. There's no priorities or titles or anything like that. Even types, like whether it's a success message or an error message. It's difficult to add that kind of stuff to the session. Also, it's hard to add multiple items to the session as well without making things too complicated. And so this aims to improve on all of those aspects. You can add multiple, you can just make multiple calls to create multiple messages. All of them will be stored in the session and grouped as a collection, which is really cool. So the idea here is I built LaraFlash to make it easy, so easy to manage notifications in a way that we already understand, which is basically working with database objects. So LaraFlash actually uses the built-in collections. It actually extends collections that are built into Laravel. So when you, just like how when you query your model and you get back a bunch of records from your database, they are returned to you as a collection. You have access to all of these methods here, these Laravel methods for collections, such as intersect, isEmpty, keys, shift, shuffle, slice, random, diff. There's almost 100 of them here that you can basically use to manipulate and find and sort and filter your collection. You have access to all of those in LaraFlash because all your notifications are actually returned to you as a collections object. And then each item in there is its own object, its own notification object that has its own properties as well, like the type of property you want, like success or info or snack bar or something like that. There's also the priority, the title. You can set a title if you want or not. Don't worry about it. You can set the message, everything like that. There's some other values coming, some new properties coming in version 2. You'll have the duration that you want the message to display, the location if you want it to be the top center, top right, whatever. We'll have those all be additional properties. And so it makes it really powerful because you can filter and group and loop through them as a native collection, just like you would with your with Eloquent, to sort through your response from Eloquent, which comes in as a collection. It works in exactly the same way. And then inside of that collection, just like with Eloquent, is a bunch of objects. So you can just query certain columns like you would with Eloquent. Here you'll just query, you'll do notification type, notification priority, just like you would with your Eloquent models where you grab the column name or whatever. So it makes it just like working with Eloquent models. That's why I love it. It feels very natural and native to me. Now there's a lot of stuff in here. I'm not going to go through all of it, but that's kind of the introduction to what LaraFlash is. Just to show you guys how it works, we can set new notifications like this. There's a helper function called Flash. You can just say Flash, something went wrong. That is all it takes to create a Flash message. Really, really easy. And now it's going to be stored in there. If you make another call in that same request, it'll just group them together as a collection. And you can have as many of those as you want, and you can have tons of messages and display all of them to the user however you want. There's another way you can add it. You can do LaraFlash add using the facade. Works exactly the same way. There's also a fluent syntax if you want to add more property information. Of course, these ones you can change the properties as well, like title and type and priority. You just need to pass in an options object to the second argument. But if you want to do a fluent syntax like this, you can see LaraFlash new, and then the contents hello world, the title is welcome, the type is info, and the priority is 5. You can configure it like that with a fluent syntax. And then you can make another call right after that or wherever, and you can add an error message as well and display all those to the user and it'll be grouped as a collection. So really cool stuff. Let's go ahead and install that and get this set up now that I think I've explained what it does and why it's cool. So we're going to do composer require dev marketer / LaraFlash. We'll just pull it in with composer. So here we are inside of composer. Let's go ahead and set it up. All right, so here we go. We've gone ahead and updated or installed the package LaraFlash. So we now have access to it. Now I just want to note, as of this video, I'm using 1.3.1. Just in case this changes in the future, you may want to specify the version number. So to do that here, when you're doing composer require, you can just do :1.3.1, or you could do, what I would recommend actually is to do a caret here. So just do a caret and then 1.3.1. That'll mean anything that's compatible with 1.3.1, just to make sure it's the same in this video. It is possible, this package is changing, so I'm adding to it all the time, so it's possible it changes by the time you're watching it, depending on when you're watching this exactly. Okay, so that's everything we need for that. So now we should have access to that here. Let's close these files. Yeah, we have access to it. Now you can see, if you look in over here, that dev marketer / LaraFlash was automatically discovered. So you don't have to worry about anything. If we go over to Google Chrome here, when we're setting up the installation, you don't have to worry about the providers or the aliases if you're using 5.5. The one thing we do have to do is publish a config file. So let's go ahead and click here and just let's publish that configuration file. Now, if we go into the config file, you can see it's config LaraFlash. There's a few settings in here. Really the important thing you need to worry about is this right here. Just set your defaults, whatever you want the defaults to be for your application. So the default type is info, default priority is 5, default title is notice, and the default content, which you really should never use, is your last request experienced a problem. All right, so this means that if you haven't set any of your, if you don't set any of these properties, these will be the default properties that are given. Now you are welcome to put null for one of them if you guys want to deal with null values, but that's how you customize what LaraFlash uses if you don't set it. So if you don't set a priority, it'll use whatever priority is in there. Okay, so now that we have that done, let's go ahead and add the actual visual elements to our Flash notifications to display those to the users. So the way we can do that here is we're going to want to add it to our layout file, our template file, to both of these files actually, so that we can just kind of set it once and forget it, and we know that it's going to grab everything that's in the LaraFlash flat request object. It's going to grab it and display those to the user upon every request. That way we don't need to worry about it going forward. We can it'll just automatically display to the users. So we're going to create something here that's visible in both of these. And of course, the most logical way to do that is to create a partial file or an includes file. So let's go ahead and create a new folder called notifications. And then inside of there, let's create a new file called Toast.Blade.php. So what I'm going to do in here is we're working with the Toast notification system. I'm going to basically create a Vue instance wrapper around the Toast notification system. That's why I like to call it Toast.Blade.php, is to kind of just explain what that does. Now let's head back over to Chrome. And the other thing I want to show you guys is this gist file. This is something I've created and been working on across many projects, Laravel projects that I currently have. I use this same template, okay? So I always just copy this. So I'm not going to rewrite the wheel here. I'm just going to use what I always use, which is this here. So you guys can come here. I'll have this linked down in the description, and you guys can go ahead and copy it. Now this top part's just a comment, so you don't need to worry about it, but if you copied it, it's not the end of the world. So anyway, all of this here is going to manage our notifications. All right. So you guys can see this link down in the description if you guys want to check it out. Just copy the code from here and put it into this Toast.Blade.php file. Okay. Go ahead and save that file. And now we will have access to that. I'm going to fly through what this does really briefly. Again, this is something I've been working on. I guess I've built, I don't know how long ago. So this isn't something I built today. This is just something I reuse across many of my applications. So I literally generally do copy and paste it. And eventually I'm going to put this into the LaraFlash, so you don't have to do anything like that. It's just part of LaraFlash. I'm going to do that eventually here. Okay, so really quick, just to explain what's going on. We create a div here that's empty, has a display of none, and it's called Toast notifications. Now the reason I make this is so that we can create a new Vue instance, and we are we are binding it to that div we just created, okay? So that way we have a second view instance that just manages our notifications, which is going to be cool. Now inside of here, we have our data objects. We have first our session, which is everything in this current session or request, all of the LaraFlash notifications for this request. So we have LaraFlash all by type. What this means is it gets all of the notifications that LaraFlash has in this request, and it sorts it by type. So by default, what that means is it's going to sort like danger notifications first, and then warning, info, and success. So kind of like highest priority to lowest priority. Danger, warning, info, success. It's going to sort them in that order. So if we have, it'll show all of the danger notifications first before it shows the success notifications. All right. So it's sorting them in that way. Now, if you don't want to do it like that, you can actually just do all, and then that will just give it to you in the exact way they were added. So whichever one you added first will get displayed first to the user. Whichever one you added second will get displayed second. The other thing you can do is you can also, if you're using the priority, you can also do all by priority, and it's going to sort the highest priority to the lowest priority in that order. Okay, so if you had multiple priorities defined, you could do it that way as well. So it really just comes down to what you want. And each of these have different options. So you can sort in ascending order or descending order, which is the default. There's options for all these. You can also configure the order that it displays in. So if you want info first, and then you want success second, and then danger third or something, you can configure that as well. But we're just going to leave it by the defaults. Okay. All right. So then all of those get put into this data, this session object. Now down here we create a bunch of methods. These methods are just ways to work with. They're basically just wrappers around this toast method. So we're using this toast open. This comes with Buify, and then we're just extending it basically. All right, so we've created a method called general, which has a bunch of parameters here. You can pass in these parameters. The only one that's required is message, and then it just goes ahead and sets it and runs the notification. We have some basic ones for primary, success, info, warning, danger, and then the snack bar at the bottom, and a generic one at the bottom as well. Okay, so there's lots of things here, and then those are always available in our application now using the notifications namespace. That's why I like to create a separate instance. Last but not least, under mounted here, this is where we actually are going to loop through everything that's in this session object. It's going to loop through them all, and then it's going to run the appropriate method and pass in the content to actually run it. So when we load the page, it's going to load anything that's currently in the session. It's going to go ahead and display all those to the user, but then it's also going to be ready for new notifications if we want to issue new notifications at any time. All right, so this is all it takes. There's no real setup here other than creating this. We do need to make sure that this partial file is available in our template. So now that we have it, let's go over here to our, let me just keep it open actually. We're gonna keep that file open. And then let's go to our layouts file and let's add it here. So down here at the bottom, we need to add it after our view and Buify have been installed. So down here, we're going to include, and we'll just say includes dot notifications dot toast. We're just going to go ahead and add that, and let's go ahead and copy this. Oops. Copy that, and then we're going to paste it into the app file as well. So now it's available in all of our files. Okay, and that's it. So now it's available. So now we can go ahead and test it, but it should work and it's ready to go. So to test it, let's go ahead and start using LaraFlash. Let's start adding LaraFlash to a few items. To do that, let's just create it in our home our home route. So here we have a home route, home controller at index. Let's go over here. We'll create some messages there just to test it out. So let's go over to our home controller here. Here's our index file. Let's go ahead and just add our LaraFlash messages here. So we would do LaraFlash to create a new LaraFlash message. You can make it fluent, so you could do add content, hello world, priority 6, type is success, and or maybe info, and whatever. That's fine. Okay. You could set a title if you wanted to, or it'll just use defaults. You can also, there's some easier methods, like if you just want to do shortcuts, there's also, you can just do danger, or you can just do success. So you can do those as well. So like success, yay, it worked. And then you could also do LaraFlash danger. Oops, something went wrong. Okay, so there we go. So now we've had 3 notifications. Let's go see how that looks. Let's go to this index page and see how it looks in the browser. So over here, let's go to home. Oh, we do need to import LaraFlash, my bad. Up here at the top, let's go through and just say use LaraFlash. There we go. Let's go back, refresh. And here we go. So now we get our danger message. Oops, something went wrong. It should last 5 seconds by default. Then we get our hello world message, which is an info message. And then we should get our success message after this. Yay, it worked. Now notice it was in slightly different order than we did here, just because if you remember over here in Toast, when we imported them, we said sort them by type. So it's by default grabbing, it sorts them from danger, warning, info, success. So it sorts them in that order. So all the danger messages will be first, then all the info, or warning, then all the info, and then success. So here, that's what it does, is it shows that danger message first. There's no warning messages, so you'll skip over that. And then it shows all the info messages, and then it will show the success message. And then if you had a different type that wasn't one of those, it would show that last. So for example, if we wanted to create another message, let's go to our home controller. Let's create another one. We can create it here just to show that it doesn't follow this order. We can say LaraFlash snack bar, and we'll just say click to continue. Okay, so now we created a snack bar message, and now that is considered a other message. It's not one of the primary 4. So what it's going to do is it's going to create it. It'll be last after all the other ones. So now let's refresh. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait 15 seconds, but it'll loop through all of them, and the snack bar message will be last. Okay, so hello world. Let's get our success message. Cool. And then we'll get our snack bar. The snack bar will be down here in the corner. There we go. Click to continue. Okay. Okay, so there we get our snack bar. There you go. Okay, so that's been created. A couple of things, if you wanted to play with it, you could sort it by priority. So this will sort highest priority first, lowest priority last. Now the default is priority 5. So if we look over here, these don't have priorities set. So all of these are going to have priority 5. That means that this one has a priority 6. So it's going to show first. And then it will show these 3, and it's going to show them in the order they were created. So basically it'll show this one, then this one, this one, and this one. Now if we added the priority, let's make this one only a priority of 3. Now it'll show this one first, which is our info message. Then it will show the success message, the danger message, and then the snack bar. Just because this is the lowest priority, this one's the highest priority. These 2 both have a priority of 5 because that's the default, which is config in our config file. If we go to config here, the default priority is 5. So these are, since these don't have a priority defined, that means they're going to use the default, which is 5. And because these both have the same priority, then the tiebreaker is basically whichever one was created first. So this one's created first, so it's going to get displayed first, then this one, and then it will go to the next priority, which is 3. So if we test that real quick, we'll get that top priority, which is the info. Then we should get the next one, which is this success. Yay, it worked. Then, because that has a 5, this one also has a 5, so that gets shown next because it was created next. And then our snack bar is the last one because it had the lowest priority. Okay? And then the other option is to just, you could just do all, and it's simply just going to do them in the order you created them. So we'll get that info first. Just create it in this order. Okay, so snack bar is second because it was the second one to create. Then we'll get our success and then our danger. Okay, so anyway, the point is though, it's set and ready to go. So now whenever we create messages, it'll be available on any page and we'll see those notifications popping up. So now we'll have access to our Flash messages. All we have to use is use this LaraFlash helper, which is pretty cool. Okay. And then the other thing I'll mention is if you wanted, you could just do Flash, that helper. If you don't want to pull in the LaraFlash thing, You can just do flash. Then there is also, you can pass in an array here as the second parameter. You could do priority is 100. You could do title is whatever, or type, or what have you. Okay, so you can pass in an array of properties. That's just another way to do it. Lots of ways to do the same thing. So just to play with that. Yeah, so anyway, that's how you have access to that. Well, it doesn't end there because we actually do have access to now this. So here we get our yay, it worked, which uses this helper. So, what we wanted to do is sort it by priority because then this would show first. Toast. So now we get that yay, it worked because it's priority 100. Then we'll get the priority 6 one, which is hello world. Right? And then we'll get the danger one, which is priority 5. And then we'll get the snack bar, which is priority 3. Okay? So that's kind of the way that that works. So you can see how flexible it is. There's the snack bar. All right. I'm going to go back to all by type. And then, or let's just keep it by all by priority. Type's fine for now. And there we go. So now it's available everywhere. Now let me just, last thing that I want to do here is let's, all right, guys, so I decided we're going to add one more notification. We set up our client side, or sorry, not our client side, our server side notifications. So, you know, when notifications are added on the server side through LaraFlash, we go ahead and we loop through those and show them all to the user every time we load the page up. So that's good to go now. We're set. I decided also it'd be kind of cool to show you guys how we're going to be using client-side notifications. So we can also trigger these notifications on the client side when something happens without the page refresh. So a perfect example of that is when we copy the slug to the clipboard. Now, let me just show you guys what happened. Unfortunately, this I actually filmed this part when we were going through and adding some of these features to the slug widget, the slug Vue.js component, and unfortunately, it got corrupted, and it got corrupted, and unfortunately, I just couldn't recover it. So the video for this got corrupted, but I did add a few minor features to this. Now when you create a notification, so let's, something cool. All right, so it creates this like normal. I do have this new actions drop down, which allows you to copy the URL, copy the slug, or to actually visit the URL on the page. So when you visit the URL on the page, it goes over to that URL. When you copy the URL, it'll copy either just the slug or the full URL, okay? Everything else is basically the same. I did change some of these words. So like here, if we haven't made a change, it just says cancel. As soon as we make a change, then it says save, just to kind of notify what's going on. But if there's no change in the slug, then it's just a cancel button to indicate that you're canceling instead of it previously was save. Just some minor stuff like that, just some little tiny changes just to kind of optimize this. So what we're going to do is I want to go ahead and create a notification that when we copy the full URL, right now if I click this, I clicked it, and there's nothing to like show you that it was on your clipboard, but now if I paste it, I get that full URL. Let's copy just the slug and paste that. Now I get just the slug. So it's in my clipboard. It does work, and I do trigger an event when you copy. It's the copied event. And so what I want to do is tie into when that event is triggered, we go ahead and pass a notification to let the user know that something was copied to the clipboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our notifications view object, and we're going to combine that with that event that is triggered in our Vue.js component. So we're going to go to this post.create page and tie it in here. So here we've got our slug widget. You can see we tie into this event right here. We run this update slug method. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to also tie into the copied method. So now when we run the copied the copied event, so now when the copied event triggers, it's going to run a certain method. So we'll just say slug copied, and we'll say it runs this method whenever that copied event is triggered. So now we need to go down and create this real fast. So let's come down here to methods and let's create that. Oops, what do I call it? Slug copied. And then we're going to go ahead and set this up. Now, there are some arguments passed in. I can't remember what they all are. So let's go look at slug widget here. Let's find that event. So down here at the bottom, here it is, copied clipboard. Okay, we created this, and let's see. Here we emit the event for copied. We pass in the response, which will either be success or warning, depending on the type of notification we want. So really, this should be type. In fact, we could change this to type. Change that to type. There we go. And then we've got the message, which will either say copy to clipboard with what was actually copied, or it'll say copy failed if it didn't work. And then last is the value, which should just be, that's passed in. That's actually what gets passed in. So that's the actual, either the URL, the slug. It's actually what was the element that was copied to the clipboard. So you have these three arguments: type, message, value. So let's go ahead and set that up. So now back over here in create, let's set that up. We'll say type, message, and value. Although I don't think we're going to use value, but that's okay. We can pass it in anyway. And then from here, we can go ahead and trigger that notification. So we're going to say notifications.toast. Well, nothing. I think we just run notifications.toast. So if we go back to that notifications, we can actually see it. Just kind of showing you guys how this works. Let's see, where is that? Includes notifications toast. So basically we want to run this method down here. This is just a generic toast method. Whereas these are kind of like, there's danger. These are just shortcuts. So this is a generic one. So if we run toast, we just pass in the message as the first argument, and then we can pass in an options object as the second argument. Okay, so this options argument contains position, duration, and type. So everything we can basically stay default. The one thing we'll change is we will pass in the type, and we'll set it equal to whatever the type is in our slug widget. This type that gets passed in will either be success or warning. Okay, so now let's set that up. Over here we got type, message, value. So now when we set up test, we can set up the message first, and then the second is going to be our options object, which will be type, and we'll set that equal to type. But we actually have to have like is warning, is success, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and just set that up here. Like that. We'll just use the JavaScript template syntax. All right, so there we go. So it'll be like is success, is warning. That's basically what it'll be. That's it. I think that's it, at least. Let's go ahead and test it out in the browser, see how this works. So I'm going to refresh real quick. Doesn't appear that we have any errors. That's a good sign. Let's say something sweet. We should get our little thing here. We can edit it. That's great. So now if we copy to here, there we go. We get our copy to clipboard, and you can see it has that full URL up there. And if I paste it down here, I should get that full thing. Let's go ahead now and just copy the normal, just the slug only. You can see copy to clipboard, something sweet. That's just the value of the slug. And so now we only have the value of the slug in our clipboard. So there we go. So we can keep doing that. It's going to trigger those on demand. All right, so that's basically everything we need to work on in this video. We've got our notifications set up, so in future videos, we can just take advantage of using them because now they're set up. So it's kind of one of those things, you set it up once, and now we're gonna be good throughout the rest of the application. Now we have the ability to trigger events on the client side, like we did here. So if we ever need to do anything client side, let a user know that something happened, an AJAX request is successful, came back with an error, any of that stuff, we can just tie into that notifications view object and create notifications on the client side as they happen. And then also, if we pass in or create any objects with LaraFlash, those will automatically be displayed to the user. We never have to worry about it again. So I'm pretty excited with what we did here. A lot of explaining, but I think this is really, really successful for our project because notifications now are done. We really don't need to worry about them anymore. They should be ready to go as we continue to work. All right, so that's everything I got for today's video. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one.